Week 18 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I would look to drop. Guys, Ramon Loreno of the Oakland Athletics. So Loreno, he got hit with an 80-game suspension after testing positive for PED. So obviously he's done for the rest of this season and a little portion of next season as well. So Loreno, his final stats on the year: 14 home runs, 39 RBIs, 43 runs scored, 12 stolen bases, 246 average, and a 317 on base. So pretty decent numbers this year for a guy who really didn't show much power or batting average throughout his career, and now we know why. He hit some season highs and career highs this year here with the Oakland Athletics. Were performing enhancers for Loreno. So Loreno, next season, we'll see if he's still with Oakland. We'll see what happens with him. But right now, he's an easy drop, but he's still owned in 40% of fantasy leagues. When the announcement came down middle of last week that he got suspended and obviously is out for the season, he got caught. There's no way around it, and he's going to be done here. So Loreno, we'll see next season what happens with him. But right now, fantasy owners in redraft leagues and even dynasty leagues or keeper leagues, there's no reason to keep him right now because he's going to go into next season some of the games missed. And he's not the greatest of players anyway, even though he's pretty decent, but he's not a player I'm going to hold on to in those type of leagues either. So Loreno, he's the first drop this week. The next hit is Harrison Bader of the St. Louis Cardinals. So Bader, he was on fire the last few weeks, but now he's totally cooled off after going on a big streak of home runs and driving runs in. On the season, 9 homers, 27 RBIs, 22 runs scored, 6 stolen bases, a 275 average, and a 343 on base. But the last couple weeks here for Bader: a homer, 3 RBIs, a stolen base, 4 runs scored, a 225 average, and a 289 on base. So right here, he's not producing. He's not giving much of anything to fantasy owners. And owners, they weren't going to wait for him as well. They've dropped him in 6% of fantasy leagues so far over the last few days. And the last few games here for Bader: August 1st versus Minnesota, 0-4. August 3rd versus Atlanta, 1-4. August 4th versus Atlanta, 1-3. August 5th versus Atlanta, 0-3. August 6th versus Kansas City, 1-4. August 7th versus Kansas City, 0-4. And August 8th versus Kansas City, 1-3 with a run. So right here, not much of anything over the last week and a half for Bader. And right now, he's an easy drop. If he gets hot again and starts hitting home runs and putting up big batting average numbers, then he's a recommended pickup. But right now, while he's not doing anything and there's better options on the waiver wire, he's definitely a hitter I would drop this week. The next hit is Dalton Varshall of the Arizona Diamondbacks. So Varshall, he showed some ability and some good fantasy value for a few weeks here for fantasy owners, but now he's down in the dumps and he's not producing. 5 home runs, 16 RBIs, 20 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, an awful 197 average, and a 304 on base in the season. In the last couple weeks for him: 1 homer, 1 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a 180 average, and a 281 on base. So right here, those numbers, they're not productive. He's not showing power. Obviously, he's not showing average. And this is a no-brainer drop as well here, with a couple decent catching options on the waiver wire this weekend. Darno coming back tonight in his ball game. And then also we got Elias Diaz as well. So right here, Varshall, he just hasn't produced over the last 2 weeks. And pretty much for the whole season, except for like 2 or 3 weeks, if that. And right now, he's not producing. He's not playing every day. And he's a drop the last few games for him. August 1st versus the Dodgers, 1-3. August 3rd versus San Francisco, 0-3. August 4th versus San Francisco, 0-4. August 5th versus the Giants, 1-4. August 7th at San Diego, 0-3. And August 8th, he didn't play, so we'll see if he plays tonight at the Giants. But I highly doubt it here that he's going to be an everyday catcher or even a corner outfielder anymore for this Arizona Diamondback team. So right now, he's not worth the wait or the headache, and he's a drop this week. The next hit is Akio Badu of the Detroit Tigers. So Badu, we've seen flashes of him, and he was a recommended pickup a few weeks ago as well. But right now, he's been struggling over the last few weeks as Badu. On the season, 10 home runs, 44 RBIs, 44 runs scored, a 266 average, and a 333 on base. But the last couple weeks here, his fantasy value's been pretty much non-existent. 1 homer, 6 RBIs, 6 runs scored, a 241 average, and a 268 on base. So right here, he's not producing. He's not scoring runs. He's not really stealing bases. And he's a guy not getting on base at all, even though he's the table setter and bats first for this Detroit Tiger team. So right now, I think he's an easy drop. And if he gets hot again, you go out there and pick him up. But even before that, he was pretty much only helping in runs and stolen bases, where you could find that category, I think, a lot on the waiver wire this season. So the last few games here for Badu: August 1st, 1 for 4 with an RBI versus Baltimore. August 3rd versus Boston, 1 for 4, an RBI. August 4th versus Boston, 0 for 5. August 5th versus Boston, 1 for 3 with a run. August 6th at the Indians, 2 for 4 with a run. August 7th at Cleveland, 1 for 4 with an RBI. And August 8th at Cleveland, 1 for 5. So right here, Badu, he's not really hitting the baseball as well. Only one multiple hit game since July 28th. And right now, he's not producing. And he's an easy drop this week and the fifth and final hitter. I will look to drop this week's Anthony Rendon of the Los Angeles Angels. So Rendon, it was another bad season for him after this guy was a batting average and NL MVP candidate the last few seasons before he signed with Los Angeles a couple years ago. So on the season here for Rendon, he finished with 6 home runs, 34 RBIs, 24 runs scored, and a 240 average, which just isn't like him throughout his career, and a 329 on base. But right now, fantasy owners, they've been holding on to Rendon, and he's not really been dropped in much fantasy leagues after it was announced last Wednesday that he's done with the season with the right hip injury here. He's still owned in 53% of fantasy leagues, and he's a player maybe I could see in keeper leagues if you got him late, or dynasty leagues keeping him, but redraft leagues, obviously, there's no reason to hold on to him. So we'll see if this hip injury is going to be a problem for him next season. And the last 2 seasons for Rendon have been really underwhelming after, like I mentioned, with the Washington Nationals. He was one of the better players in the National League and obviously all of fantasy baseball. But right now, with his injury, there's no reason to hold on to him. And hopefully he bounces back and has a better 2022 season if he's ready in time. So that's a few hitters I look to drop here in Week 18 of the fantasy baseball season.